Hello, this is Duke Byte. In this tutorial, we will learn about classes, objects, and object-oriented programming. What is OOP? OOP stands for Object-Oriented Programming. Procedural programming is about creating methods that perform operations on the data, and object-oriented programming is about creating objects that have data and methods. OOP provides a clear structure. OOP helps to keep code dry. Don't repeat yourself. That makes the code easier to maintain, modify and debug. OOP makes it possible to create reusable applications. Class and objects of that class. For example, we have class enemy, and objects of that class are rogue of type enemy, tank of type enemy, and priest of type enemy. When defining a class, we define a blueprint. This blueprint does not define any data yet, but it defines what our class represents. It is a set of information about what our object contains and what operations can be performed on it. An object is an instance of a class. The methods and variables that belong to the class are called components. How to create a class? The class definition starts with the class keyword, followed by the class name. A pair of braces surround the body of the class. It is not required, but it is a good practice to start the name of the class with an uppercase letter. How to create an object? Objects are created using the new keyword, which allocates memory for a new object. The following statements create two enemy objects and store references to those objects in two variables. Class members fields. Variables inside a class are called fields. You can access the fields of the class by creating an object of the class and using the dot syntax. Class members methods. Methods are used to perform specific actions, and they define how an object of a class behaves. You can access methods with the dot syntax. Remember to use the name of the method followed by two parentheses. Class constructor. The class constructor is a special method, which is executed whenever a class object is created. The constructor has exactly the same name as the class name and does not return any type. The default constructor does not have any parameter, but if necessary, the constructor prepared by us can have these parameters. Such a constructor is called a parameterized constructor. This technique allows you to assign the initial value to the object during its creation. Constructors help to reduce the amount of code. Let's move on to Unity and Visual Studio. Let's create a file for enemy class, which will be a blueprint for our objects. We can delete mono behavior because it will not use any of the functionality it provides. We can also delete start and update methods. Let's start adding class fields. The first in field that stores the health level. The second field of the string type, which stores the name of the character. In round brackets, we add parameters that we will use to create concrete objects. In curly brackets, we assign appropriate class fields to the corresponding parameters of the constructor. Now let's write a method showEnemyInfo displaying information about the character. Let's create a myTestGame file, which will be attached to an object in the scene. Create 3 enemy objects using the keyword new. In the round brackets, provide the appropriate parameters needed to create a specific object. Assign 3 objects to variables of enemy type. We can now use the show enemy info method on these 3 variables. In the console, we can see the appropriate message for each character. Now let's see how we can easily create more characters. We need an array or list to store these objects. In the for loop, we create objects of the amount declared in the size of the array. In the parameters, we increase the healthy level of each character by I. And in the parameter of the name of the character, we add further numbers starting from 1. Now we can use the show enemy info method on each element of the table. This way, we quickly generated 300 Spartans. We can also display information about a specific character by referring to the appropriate array element. I hope that the video was helpful. If you have any comments or questions, I invite you to the comments section below the video. Don't forget to like this movie and subscribe to the channel. See you next time.